Stassi's mom. What's going on with Stassi's mom? That's a question a lot of you are asking yourselves. It's a question a lot of you are asking me. So today I want to do a little intuitive deep dive into Dana Schroeder and what I get a sense is going on with her and her relationship with her daughter. When it comes to Stassi's mom, there are two things that really jump out at me. And the first one is on a very sort of simple fundamental level. I think this is a woman who is getting older and not dealing with her shit. And as a result of not dealing with her shit, I think her inner demons are getting progressively worse. And I think this is a really great cautionary tale for something that I see in people all the time. And I'm sure you've witnessed it in your own life. As people get older, maybe it's your parents, maybe it's your grandparents, older relatives, older acquaintances. As people get older, if they don't deal with the emotional, spiritual, psychological imbalances or misalignments that they've got going on inside, it's my experience that things truly start to break down in their system. Things break down mentally, emotionally, physically in the body. And things get progressively worse, and they can get progressively worse very quickly. So why is it that things get progressively worse if we don't deal with our shit? Why is it that things start to go haywire as we get older, rather than just maybe maintaining a certain status quo level of dysfunction? It's a really good question. So let's say there's someone who has this major misalignment where they feel worthless on the inside, and they're deeply ashamed of this worthlessness, and they don't want to deal with this worthlessness. So what they really want is to go out in the world and get a lifelong partner. They want to get a relationship, they want to get a man, they want to get a woman to help validate them and help make themselves feel like they are worth something. However, here's the catch. Because they feel inherently worthless, they're never willing to actually show their true selves to a partner. They've always got a guard up, they've always got a mask on, they're always being inauthentic in some way. And so even though their conscious mind is saying, oh, I want deep everlasting love, their unconscious mind is saying, I am never going to share my true self with you, and I'm never going to fully let you in. And as a result, they keep bringing in bad partners who aren't ultimately going to be the kind of fulfilling relationship that their mind thinks that they actually want. Now, what happens is when we're young or younger, we still have all this optimism. We still feel like life is ahead of us. That life is this long road and we have all these chances and we have all these opportunities to get our needs met. So yeah, maybe this one relationship didn't work out over here, but hey, you know what? I'm gonna hop on Tinder and I'm gonna try Tinder dating. Okay, Tinder dating didn't work. I'm gonna, join this new spiritual community, for singles. Let me try this over here. Okay, I'm gonna try dating a new type of guy, a new type of woman. We keep going. We're like a plucky hero of a movie. We still feel like there's a chance this will all work out if we just try hard enough and stick to our guns. Now, what happens though, as we start to get older into our 40s, 50s, and 60s, and our methods still don't work out, and suddenly mortality is creeping in, and suddenly we're looking around and saying, oh shit, I thought I had this good gig going where I was gonna, get to avoid myself and my feelings and bring in the thing that I thought was gonna fix everything, and I had all this hope for the future, but it's not actually working out. I'm actually alone. I'm actually still unhappy. I still have this core worthlessness that I've never resolved. And now I don't have the time and the youth that I used to have. And so now what happens is, not only do I have this core worthlessness that I've always wanted to avoid and this core shame that I've always wanted to avoid, but now I'm also pissed that I'm still alone. I'm sad that I'm still alone. I'm ashamed that I'm still alone. I've got all these additional dark feelings that have clustered over my core dark feelings that I've been trying to avoid all this time. And so now, if I want to stay out of my feelings, and if I want to keep avoiding myself, I have to work that much harder to avoid all this shit that's going on with me. So I better start drinking more. I better start blaming other people more than I've ever blamed them before. I gotta look outside of myself so much more intensely than in previous years because there's so much more here for me to avoid. And so what happens is we just disengage that much more from reality. We disengage that much more from our emotional reality, and we disengage that much more from the reality around us. It's what we have to do in order to stay in denial. The gap between our true selves and what's going on up here just grows that much more as we get older, and we just have to double down to continue avoiding ourselves. And I think that's a lot of what we're seeing with Stassi's mom. The reality of the situation is her behavior on camera has gotten much worse since when we first met her. And the show's been on for a minute now. I mean, it's been a full 7 years, so that's a decent chunk of time. I think it's interesting that even Stassi's mom is mentioning her age. She had that strange misguided comment where she said, basically, I'm in menopause, my body is absorbing my ovaries. So she clearly is aware of her age and the aging process. And what we're seeing is a woman who previously on camera could hold things together. And now on camera, she's drinking to excess. She's making inappropriate comments to Stassi's boyfriend. She's grabbing his butt. She's talking about his junk. And she's in a way, very much kind of emotionally abusing her daughter for all the world to see. It's pure fact. This woman's behavior is not what it once was on camera. I think this is a woman who is sort of waking up to the reality of her life. We don't know that much about her, but what we do know is she's separated from Stassi's dad. We don't see her showing up to any of these events with another man. We do know that she's throwing uncomfortable energy towards Beau, so it seems like she's got men on her mind, and it just feels like this is a woman who is waking up to the reality of her life, not really liking what she sees, drinking a little bit more, and acting out a little bit more in order to avoid herself, including the way that she points a finger at Stassi, which brings me to my second point. One of the ways that we can chiefly avoid ourselves is to point a finger at other people and get really invested in a relationship narrative that helps us to feel better about ourselves. So I feel like we so clearly see that going on right now with Stassi's mom and Stassi. Stassi's mom is clearly invested in a narrative where Stassi is a fuck up, where Stassi ruins everything, where Stassi drives men away. And there's this charge that she seems to get out of it. Where does this charge come from? Well, if Stassi's the fuck up, if she's the fuck up in the family, and if I can point my finger at Stassi, I never have to deal with all the ways in which I'm a fuck up. I get to turn a blind eye to everything I'm doing, and instead I get to be the wise, know-it-all mother who gets to point a loving but know-it-all finger at Stassi and say, oh, Stassi, what are you doing? And I get to avoid all this stuff that's down here. This is all well and good until, however, the dynamic in the relationship changes. And I think this is where things get so interesting, because I think the difference between Stassi and Stassi's mom is that Stassi has actually had this amazing opportunity in the last 7 years to grow and change. I do think Stassi has grown and changed, and I think Stassi is one of the few people who actually is benefiting from the perspective she is getting from reality television. I think that Stassi is a young woman who has seen herself on TV and who has gone through the ringer in terms of the cast dynamics and has actually learned from her mistakes. I think she was absolutely humbled when the cast turned on her, like way back in seasons 3 and 4, when she tried to kind of be too good for the show. I think she was absolutely humbled when she saw her relationship to Patrick on the screen. I think that this is a woman who has changed, and we've seen her change this season. I mean, the way that she came back to Beau after her birthday meltdown and was contrite and was willing to work on herself. The old Stassi would have doubled down and made everything Beau's fault and done everything to avoid responsibility. this is a young woman who is growing and who is changing, and her relationship is making it worth it to her to grow and change. And as a result of her growth and change, she has actually drawn someone in who is good for her. She has actually drawn someone in who loves her, and she is actually changing the narrative wherein she is not fucking up and driving men away with her bad behavior. Now, this, while being a great thing for Stassi, is not such a good thing for Stassi's mom. Because suddenly, if Stassi's mom can't point her finger at Stassi anymore, she once again is going to have to deal with herself. I feel like we saw a very similar thing happen with LeeAnne and Deandra. It feels very clear to me that Deandra was very comfortable playing the part of LeeAnne's sort of sane keeper. LeeAnne's the insane one who has to be kept on a tight leash. Deandra's the one who holds the leash. She gives LeeAnne tough love. Deandra is sort of the no-nonsense, tough love friend who gets to be wise and sagacious and, be loving towards LeeAnne, but also be the one who's got it all together. But suddenly, when they're on this show together, and LeeAnne is very much the star of the show, and LeeAnne's starting to change, and LeeAnne's getting great feedback, and Deandra doesn't get to be in that position anymore, you saw Deandra start to break down. There was this anger that sort of came up in her. And you could see Deandra all season long picking a fight, looking for a reason to be angry with LeeAnne. Why was Deandra looking for a reason to be angry with LeeAnne? I think it's because the changing dynamic in their relationship no longer allowed Deandra to avoid her own shit. And because Deandra could no longer avoid her own shit, her anger started to come out. And rather than deal with her anger as her own anger, she instead tried to put it on LeeAnne. It's your fault I'm angry. You're doing things wrong in our relationship. I'm going to keep looking for a reason to put this anger on you rather than deal with myself, because I want to keep projecting onto you rather than deal with myself. And so I feel like we're seeing something very similar go on with Stassi's mom, where suddenly not only is her life not working out for her, not only are her life choices leaving her unhappy, but suddenly the daughter, who she could kind of point a finger at and say, oh, you're such a fuck up and I know so much more than you, her daughter is actually changing. And her daughter is actually getting what she wants. And I think that is only adding fuel to the unconscious fire of rage and grief and shame inside Dana Schroeder. And so the way she's dealing with that is to double down and try to hold on to this narrative with everything she's got. Stassi, you're a fuck up. Stassi, you're a fuck up. Stassi, you're going to drive him away. Stassi, you're going to drive him away. I am doing everything I can in my mind to hold on to what I have believed to have been true. Because if none of this is true, it means I've actually wasted so much of my time. It means I've wasted so much of my energy. It means I've taken things out on you that really had nothing to do with you, and I don't want to deal with that. It drives me crazy that you're in a satisfying relationship. It drives me crazy that you're changing in a productive way, because here I am, I'm at a certain age, I'm not feeling good about my life, and I don't want to deal with it. So let me just drink a little bit more, let me point an even more blaming finger at you, and let me try to get in the way of your relationship so I can hold on to this sinking ship. That's what I get off Stassi's mom. So just let that settle for a moment. This is intense stuff. This is an intense energy to be addressing and acknowledging. And of course, it brings us in touch with our own places where we like to kind of point fingers at other people rather than dealing with our own stuff. And on that note, I actually have a final sort of comment to make about why we shouldn't be too hard on Stassi's mom. Before I get to the final comment though, please, if you are enjoying this video, if you're getting something out of it, hit the subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button if you're watching on YouTube, tag a friend if you're watching this on Instagram. The more likes and subscribers I get, the more of these videos I can make, and so everyone wins. So I did want to add a final little comment about not judging Stassi's mom too harshly. And I say this at the risk of sounding a little didactic. I don't want to make it seem like I'm, bringing in a moral to the story with all this, but I am very aware of the kind of irony or hypocrisy of all of us pointing a finger at Stassi's mom and judging her for pointing a finger at Stassi. At the end of the day, you know, what I was taught is that judgments are a way of avoiding our own feelings. And so we're seeing Stassi's mom use judgment and finger pointing to avoid her own feelings. If we sit here and make a laughing stock of this woman or judge her in a really harsh or overly critical manner, we're essentially doing the same thing. So in a way, she's just holding a mirror up for the very things that we're doing as viewers. I think it is totally possible to enjoy you know, a trashy reality show like Vanderpump Rules and to get a charge and a thrill from the bad behavior of the characters involved, and also still just hold space for the fact that this is a woman, a human being, who is in some form of suffering. You know, this is a woman who's struggling, and it's fine. She's put herself out there for all of us to watch, to see, yes, in fact, to judge. I'm not saying she's a victim in any of this, but I am just sort of bringing in a final note of humanity, compassion, empathy for a woman who's really just sort of trying to get through this oftentimes difficult thing that we call life. So on that note, Stassi's mom, wherever you are, I am wishing you the best. I hope that this seeing yourself on the show is an impetus for positive change, much like it has been for your daughter. And you guys, if you have any questions for me, please comment, send me an email. I love, love, love hearing from you. I love hearing your insights. And yes, certainly if this video has sparked anything in you as far as how you point a finger at other people or things in yourself that you're avoiding and you want help exploring that with more consciousness so that you can age with wisdom and with forward positive momentum, please feel free to contact me and see if an intuitive reading is right for you. HollywoodReadings.com. Otherwise, peace, love, and blessings to all of you. Until next time, see you later.